Carson and Pinyon Canyon are one base. And in the past, they had always kind of identified the Pinyon Canyon area as a maneuver site, and the initial transformation EIS talked about them as separate entities. And that kind of took away the line. And so when they train at Fort Carson, could be here, could be there. I mean, I guess is the answer to your question, that they don't really have to distinguish between the two. They still are hardly using that down there. I mean, I think Pascaret said they were going to have brigade size maneuvers down there in August. And so that might really bring a lot of those troops down there all at once for the first time in quite some time.
So could I hear what was happening at Pinyon? Or was it too far away?
If you can do that, we're in real trouble.
So what I hear is most likely just on Fort Carson.
Yeah, well, do you want to just go into a little bit about the noise problem already as you experience it as a near neighbor to Fort Carson?
Oh, it's just a lot of noise. Bombing and what's the small munition stuff, like gunshots, but also the big booms.
How regularly? How much?
It's surprisingly quiet today, but that's rare. It's more often than not.
Yeah.
You hear a lot. It depends on when they're doing it. You know, at time. You hear the tanks during the fall.
Oh yeah.
And that M16 fire, you can hear that anytime. They open that range anytime. So I hear it all the time. It's like it's a part.
Are you from Rancho, Colorado, by any chance?
Say that again.
Rancho down there? I
No,
often wonder
I
about
just
those
live in
parks.
Whitefield. I mean, that's close enough to here.
Whitefield, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if if you wanted to look at a poverty dimension to this, and I think the Independent did this story on the Rancho, Colorado people. I mean, they're really almost low-class blue-collar people that have moved into that area down there, right on the border with Fort Carson, but they don't have a lot of money.
Where is it with Fort Carson? Which border?
Rancho, Colorado. There's actually there's an exit off of the interstate that send you down. But they really would hear more noise already, and I suspect they would be heavily impacted by an aviation brigade, if anyone were, because they're downrange or right next to downrange. And I raised this question with Udall's. Casey Howard, is that his name? And, he's quite matter of fact about it. He said, sure, the people at the Broadmoor are going to have more clout than they do down there. I mean, that's in politics. I mean, because they don't have much money. And in a way, I kind of see myself speaking for them even here, that I guess a lot of people would say, well, can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, I mean, but that's their homes. A lot of them been there quite a while, and, they're multi-generational and all that. Yeah.
I don't know anything about military maneuvers, but my imagination says that Fort Carson isn't big enough to do a bunch of helicopter maneuvers. They're going to have to go to Pinyon Canyon to do anything, right?
That's what I put in a letter to the editor I wrote.
What are the big black helicopters that already fly around?
Well, they have some, think of all of these out there already. The Chinooks are the great big ones with dual rotor. The Black Hawks are big, too. And I don't know which ones you're seeing, but the Apaches are pretty good size. I think there are only 2 people in there, kind of a gunner and a pilot.
Well, I don't know. I just talked to one city council person, and he swore up and down that they don't fly over Colorado Springs. And then I walk out my back door, and there's 3 of them right
3 of
to
them.
the west.
Yes. And we know they're not the police helicopters.
They're all gone. Well, I live near the intersection of Palmer Park and Circle, and I don't hear this like as frequently as people who live closer, but periodically, maybe once a week, I hear booming.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a bomb or what it is.
Tejon Street.
but I hear.
Well, they have big artillery shells, and several times a year, and I couldn't tell you for sure how many, they actually have 500-pound bombs dropped in there by the Air National Guard. I mean, that came out in some EIS some years ago. And that's because bombing ranges are hard to come by too now, because nobody wants a new one. So if you got one, you're going to get more use. And so, and they see, this is another question that relates to Pinyon Canyon. They currently don't have an impact range down there. They have live fire ranges. They fire everything up to a 50 caliber machine gun. But they don't have any place where you can throw in explosives. The Army does bullets and shells. So, and they want bombs, basically. They want to, they've kind of been tamped down on this, but they wanted a long-range artillery that would go like 150 miles and go really boom. And somebody did point out that was, let the Air Force do that.